It's 2024, you're looking to make a move to Baltimore. In this video, here's what we're doing. We're breaking down the pros and cons of living in Baltimore, Maryland in 2024. So stick around, we're getting started with the video right now. What's going on, everyone? It's Adam Taylor back again with another video all about living here in Maryland. Today, we are breaking down the pros and cons of living in Baltimore, Maryland here in 2024. Now, things have substantially changed, especially on the con side. So you're gonna wanna make sure you stick around to the end. So let's get into it. Let's knock out these pros and cons for you. So let's get into these pros and cons, and we're gonna start out with the good stuff first, and then I'm gonna talk about the not so good stuff, the con. Now, you're gonna wanna make sure you stick around to the end because of recent events that have occurred here in Baltimore. The cons have changed quite a bit. So the pros, all right? The first pro of living here is location. That's the first rule of real estate, location, location, location. You're gonna wanna live here because of Baltimore being centrally located on the East Coast. So with that, it makes it real easy to get to points north, like Philadelphia, New York, Boston. They're either a short train ride or a short plane flight. Heck, you can even hop in your car and drive to these points in a matter of hours if you're heading north. Now down south, you've got Washington, D.C. It's all of a 45-minute trip. Well, maybe a little longer because traffic, quite frankly, kind of sucks. Typically, you're gonna run into about a 45-minute drive to get to Washington, D.C., 3 to 3.5 hours to get to Richmond, just beyond that. And then short plane rides to go to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, all up and down the East Coast. Now, the other thing about living here in Baltimore, Maryland, you're just a few hours away from the beach and having your toes in the sand, 2.5 to 3 hours to get to Ocean City, Maryland. Or you can drive out to Western Maryland and experience the mountains and everything that you can do, as far as mountain living goes. So Maryland is called the mini America for a reason. You can experience all of that, the beach, the mountains, the Chesapeake Bay, and so much more. And then the last thing, let's talk about travel. Okay, we briefly talked about getting to the different points around or other cities along the East Coast. But check this out. Look, Baltimore has BWI Airport, Baltimore Washington International Airport. And the big thing being international. So you can get tons of international flights, direct flights, right out of Baltimore. If you can't find the flight that you need, heck, you can use one of the two airports in Washington, D.C. You've got Reagan National and then Dulles Airport as well. And then if something's not there that you need, you can head on up to Philadelphia and find yourself a flight there. So look, again, the location is prime. You're gonna be just a short plane ride from wherever you need to go. And oh, by the way, I didn't mention this, but Southwest Airlines has a hub right here in Baltimore. So the majority of the flights domestically that you may need to hop on, you can probably find a direct flight right out of Baltimore, my friends. All right, the second pro of living in Baltimore, Maryland, is the fact that you're gonna be able to experience all 4 seasons. Now, you may like that, you may not like that, I don't know. But let's start out at the beginning of the year. We get a full winter here. You're gonna see snow, you're gonna see ice, you're gonna slip and fall on the ice, you're gonna have achy back from shoveling all of that snow. Yes, it will happen here. Now, in the previous 2 years, we really didn't see a whole lot of snow here in Baltimore. It was like trace amounts. This year we got a decent little snowfall, but it was nothing significant. Now, maybe global warming is a thing, and that's why we're not getting as much snow. Who knows? That's not my area of expertise, and I don't even want to go there. Let's jump into the next season. Springtime. It's probably the most beautiful time of year here in Baltimore. The cherry blossoms are blooming. Everything's greening up. It's just stunning. Then we're going to go into summertime. And summertime, I really love, but you may not, because we do get days where there is 100% humidity and triple-digit temperatures. I've joked about this in other videos that I've done. I'm being serious here, guys. Keep a spare change of clothes in your car, because that day that your air conditioning breaks or something, you're heading to work and you've got a big meeting going on and your clothes are soaked because of the torrential heat that we've got here, you're going to be thanking me later on. So do be prepared for triple-digit temperatures. They typically happen in July. That's our hottest month here. And August is right behind that. And then we're going to end the year in the season of fall. And it's really, really nice. And one thing I've said in other videos, I'm going to say it again here. The thing you got to do in the fall is you got to head out to Western Maryland and look at all the beautiful foliage as you drive through the mountains. Just make a day trip of it. Again, this is one of those things you'll thank me later because it is stunning. So my friends, if you're looking to experience all 4 seasons, you can do it right here in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, before I jump back into these pros, if this is your first time to our channel, number one, I want to welcome you. My name is Adam Taylor. I run the Living in Baltimore, Maryland channel. And on this channel, we talk about all things Maryland. We talk about living here, working here, chilling here, and most importantly, getting out and having some fun in the great state of Maryland. So if you're interested in learning more, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It's the one that looks like the one right over my shoulder here. Don't forget to give the little bell a click. That way you're alerted every time we put out another video just like this one. Now, as I always say, we are receiving phone calls, text messages, and emails from folks all over the world looking to make a move right here to Baltimore, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move, we'd love to connect with you, but we just need one thing from you. We need you to reach out to us. So please give us a call, shoot us a text message, send us an email, or better yet, this is the best way to get a hold of us. I'm telling you, this is the VIP pass, guys. Schedule your own one-on-one Zoom appointment using the link down in the description below. That way you and I can hop on, have a face-to-face conversation, and see what we can do to help you out with your transition here to Baltimore, Maryland. So with that said, let's get back into the video. I'm gonna knock out these other pros, and don't forget, you gotta stick around for these cons. All right, pro number 3 is getting out and having some fun here in Baltimore, and it's all the entertainment that you have at your disposal. Guys, I'm a big sports fan. You all know that. I bleed purple and black and orange here pretty much year round. So Baltimore Ravens are our NFL football team here, and they are fabulous. We're just footsteps from the Super Bowl, and I can't wait for us to make it back. Baltimore Orioles, do I need to say any more? 101 wins last year. We're crushing it. So Baltimore sports are on fire right now, and it is so much fun to live in this town when our teams are ultra successful, as they are. But that's not the only game in town, okay? There are other professional sports organizations here. You've got neighboring Washington, D.C., where you can, see the Washington Nationals play and also the Washington Commanders of the NFL. And then you can head up north to Philadelphia, watch Philadelphia Eagles or Philadelphia Phillies. You can get some basketball in either D.C. or Philadelphia, as well as hockey too. Now, that's sports. Let's talk about people, maybe sports isn't your thing and you want to see concerts. Holy cow. Do we have access to some great concerts and incredible venues here? You've got Merriweather Post Pavilion, which is an outdoor concert spot here locally in Columbia. Guys, that's fabulous there. You can just go out, take your blanket, grab some cheap lawn seats, and have a great time. But if you want to get up close and right in the center of things, you can do that too. I've been to multiple events and concerts at Merriweather. I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of fun. But there are other places in and around the Baltimore area, including the Baltimore Arena. It's been renamed. I can't think of the new name off of the top of my head. Look, guys, I'm from Baltimore. It's the Baltimore Arena, or even the Civic Center is what we used to call it back in the day. And then they are doing concerts now at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, as well as M&T Bank Stadium. And if you can't find the act that you're looking to see, again, we are really close to Philadelphia as well as Washington, D.C. So again, not only are you going to have access to these awesome things to do in Baltimore, you're going to have amazing spots to eat as well. And the food here, guys, look, I could do a whole video on food. Heck, maybe I will, because the dining scene in Baltimore is incredible. So sports, music, dining, we got it all right here in Baltimore, Maryland. So the 4th pro of living in Baltimore, Maryland is your access to the Chesapeake Bay. My friends, the Chesapeake Bay, there is nothing like it anywhere in the US, and I would say anywhere else in the world. So if you like to be out on the water, boating, sailboating, crabbing, fishing, water skiing, jet skiing, you name it, you're going to be able to do it. I can go on and on with all these water activities, but the Chesapeake Bay is your oasis, and it is so much fun. I personally cannot wait for boating season to start. I'm an active boater. I love getting out, love taking my kids fishing out on the bay. It is so much fun. So if you are into water sports, or you just like cruising around and looking at sights along the water or dining along the water, you're going to be able to do a ton of it here right along the Chesapeake Bay. Now, the final pro we're going to talk about here today is the thriving job market in Baltimore. Let's face it, ever since COVID happened, Baltimore has jumped tremendously and become a biotech hub. I remember back in 2020 when the first vaccines were coming out, they were manufacturing a lot of the vaccines right here in Baltimore. So that presence in the biotech space has not changed. And I have to believe it's because we are surrounded by great hospitals like the University of Maryland Medical System. We've got Johns Hopkins University as well. And these universities, they do worldwide research right here in Baltimore, Maryland. Johns Hopkins University and the hospital system is the largest employer in Baltimore. So if you're in healthcare, you're not going to have any problems finding a job. And then flip it on the other side of that biotech space, tech jobs here in Baltimore are growing exponentially as well. I mean, the other thing you have to consider is our proximity to Washington, D.C. There are so many Department of Defense jobs. You have all of the stuff that's going on at Fort Meade and Washington, D.C., just a short drive away from Baltimore. In addition to that, you have all the government contractors that service the federal government. So again, healthcare, government workers. We've got the Port of Baltimore, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Lots of action is happening there. Lots of jobs, my friends. So the economy in Baltimore is thriving right now, and finding a job, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. It's going to be competitive, but we are a growing city, and you really got to get in right now because I'm telling you guys, jobs are out there. So you heard all the good things about living here in Baltimore, but guess what? I got to give you the other side of the story here and tell you about the cons of living here. And there are 5 significant cons that I want to make you aware of. And the first one, you already know what I'm going to say. It's the crime in Baltimore. Let's face it, Hollywood has not done a good job of painting Baltimore as a great place to live. Guys, I've been here pretty much the majority of my life. With a few years I went away to college, that was the only time I wasn't here in Baltimore. And I would not live here if I didn't love this place. So yes, you can find a safe place to live. Don't let Hollywood or any of these knuckleheads influence your decision. But with that said though, does crime happen here? Yup. Is there quite a bit of it? Yes, there is. There are murders, there are arsons, there are carjackings, there are car break-ins, home break-ins, all of that stuff. And guess what? Last time I checked, pretty much every city in the United States runs into the same problem. So we're not totally singled out. Are our numbers quite a bit higher than I'd like to see them? You betcha. One life lost is way too many in my book. But I'll leave you with this on crime. Number one, you got to do your own research on crime. And there are plenty of sites that can tell you what's going on in the city of Baltimore. Double check to make sure they're factual. But I'm going to give you 2 resources that I use all the time. So you're going to want to timestamp and come back, rewatch this if you missed this in the video. Number one, it is the Baltimore City Crime Data Map. This is a tool put out by Baltimore City Police Department that tells you all of the crimes that have occurred all throughout the city. You can type in the address, 123 Main Street, whatever it might be, and you can see what's going on, if anything. And yes, there are parts of the city where you're not going to have these crime issues. There are. So go utilize that. I'll put a link down in the description for you so you can just hop right out there and check it out yourself. The second thing is this, and this is an insider secret that I use all the time. Your friend is Google Maps. Google has done a great job of taking pictures of pretty much every square block of Baltimore City. So you can get in and you can type that address in when you go on to Google Maps. Now, what I want you to do is drill down and go to the street view. And I want you to do a little 360 and spin the thing around and look all around the area that you're thinking about moving to, because it's going to give you a fairly accurate assessment as to what's going on. I mean, let's face it, when you're looking at a picture, you're going to be able to get a decent idea if you're going to feel safe by just looking at a picture from Google's Maps picture. So those are 2 fabulous resources for you to do your research on the crime in Baltimore. Now, the second con, I sort of told you that it was a pro in the beginning, but it is also a con. It's the extremes in some of our seasons here in Baltimore. So here's the deal. In the winter, it gets frigid. The winds kick up, the ice is all over your car, and sometimes it stinks, guys, okay? So if you don't like the cold, Baltimore is not the spot for you, because you are gonna have to buy winter coats, you're gonna have to heat up your car in the morning, you're gonna have to shovel snow, you're gonna have to do all of that. Now, maybe you do love the winter and that doesn't bother you, but you can't stand the summertime when it gets hot and humid outside. Well, guess what? Baltimore's not your spot for that either, because it gets downright hot, especially in the months of July. In August, we see some of our hottest temperatures all year round. And like I told you in the beginning, we'll see triple digit temperatures with 100% humidity, and you will soak your clothes just walking to your stinking mailbox or walking to your car. So if you can't stand or you have medical issues with the extremes in temperatures, you gotta look somewhere else to live other than Baltimore. All right, here we are at con number 3, and it's not good, my friends, and it's not good because of recent events. And this is one of the spots that I wanted to fill you in on that is an update. The traffic in Baltimore has always been challenging, and quite frankly, it has always been a con in every single one of the videos that I've told you about. But now it's gotten even worse. You all saw the Key Bridge collapsed. And it sucks. If you've been under a rock and you haven't, I just did a video right here talking about the impact on the housing market. Go check that out once we're finished with this video here today. But this bridge collapsing screws up travel all along the East Coast because, guys, that bridge was mainly designed so that truckers can transport hazardous materials up and down the East Coast without having to go through one of the tunnels here in Baltimore, either Fort McHenry or Harbor Tunnel. Because hazmats, even silly stuff like a propane tank on your camper, you cannot go through the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel or the Fort McHenry Tunnel. So now what happens here? Traffic for these truckers that have to transport these materials, they have to get to these other points along the East Coast. They now have to go all the way around the stinking Baltimore Beltway on the western side and add probably an hour and 15 minutes or more to their commute that would have taken them essentially 10 to 15 minutes before to get over the Key Bridge. Now they've got all this additional time that they're going to have to spend in their vehicles, furthermore clogging up the western side of the Beltway and other points along the Beltway. So you've got to know that the traffic here is challenging. The other thing is every time you go through one of the tunnels, you're going to have to pay a toll. Yeah, it kind of stinks. So you need to get an easy pass so you can get a discounted toll rate, and it makes it very, very easy. Otherwise, they've yanked the toll booths out, and don't think you're going through the tunnels without getting a toll assessed to you. They're just going to send you the bill in the mail, and you're going to have to pay it that way because it's all video tolls these days. So the traffic here is not good in and around Baltimore Metro. Now, if you're driving down to Washington, D.C., no, it's not good. Find another mode of transportation, guys. Get on the train, use the MARC train. It's our commuter train here to get from Baltimore to DC. You will thank me later. It is the easiest train to hop on. It runs on time. There are never any traffic delays. Just use the MARC train if you're going to DC because traveling to Washington, DC is not fun. So where I'm going with this, travel in and around the Baltimore metro area in a car is quite challenging. Down in Washington, DC, it's downright awful. All right, look, if you are finding value in this video, these pros, these cons, filling you in on this local stuff, could I ask a quick and easy favor from you? Can you hit the like button down below? It's the one that looks like a thumbs up just like this. By doing that, you are helping me on my mission to make this the #1 channel about learning about life in Maryland. Guys, my goal is to be consistent, to be out here for you each and every week, giving you the latest stuff about living in Maryland, living in Baltimore, and I need your help and support in growing this channel. So if you wouldn't mind, hit that like button. The other thing I want to be is a facilitator of conversations about life here in Maryland, because you may be moving here, you've never lived here, whether you're coming from out of country, out of state, or even, a different part of the state. You don't know what's going on here. And I want to be the guy that starts the conversation about what's going on here in Maryland. So we talk about the good, we talk about the bad, and we get rid of the knuckleheads that like to chime in with all the other crap. So drop your questions, comments down below. My team and I will do our best to get back to you, or one of the other Marylanders that watches these videos locally will jump in and give their perspective on things. So with that said, let's get back in. I got 2 more cons for you. You're not going to want to miss. All right, con number 4. It is the drug problem that is here in Baltimore, specifically the opioid problem. It's downright become a crisis in Baltimore, and Baltimore has experienced way too many deaths as a result of the opioid epidemic that we're seeing all across the United States, and for that matter, the world even. And in reality, with some areas of Baltimore having such low income and crime ridden and it's not good, well, drugs is another part of that. And it's probably a big reason that some of these crimes are occurring. So my friends, look, The opioid crisis is here in Baltimore and it's not good. And you could see this yourself when visiting. I mean, let's face it, there's a big homeless population in Baltimore and you could be just walking through the inner harbor. I'm just being transparent here. And you could see somebody who's homeless, strung out on drugs and tripping right in front of you. I'm not kidding. This can happen. I do think it's infrequent, but it is a big challenge and a big problem that Baltimore, I really feel, is doing a really good job in asserting themselves, knowing that this is a problem, but they are standing behind it and trying to minimize the problem and get rid of it and eradicate it from the streets of Baltimore. All right, the fifth con of living in Baltimore, Maryland is it is not cheap to live here. We are seeing rents rise at an exponential rate. We are seeing sales prices go to the moon. Appreciation has been great. Now, if you own a home right now, you're pretty happy that your property value is going up. The challenge is salaries aren't keeping up, and sometimes it's harder for people to purchase a home right now. With increased interest rates, property values going through the moon, it makes it tough to find a nice place to live in a decent part of town that you're gonna feel safe in. But here's the other thing that a lot of people aren't talking about when it comes to living in Baltimore, Maryland. It's the property taxes, because just as your values are going up, city officials are sitting there smiling and they're like, oh, we can't wait to get your tax revenue because we're gonna hike the assessed value of your house on up. And yes, they do it. But here are a couple other things and traps you gotta watch out for when you're looking at a property. Gotta look at the tax bill and really peel the onion back. Say, for example, you found a beautiful renovated townhome in Federal Hill and you wanna move on in and you look at the taxes and they're like, man, these taxes are $2,500. That's pretty stinking cheap. And guys, look, $2,500 in the city of Baltimore is very cheap for property taxes. You may be coming from another state and think $2,500 is absurd. Guess what? It's pretty cheap here in Baltimore. So let's get back into that. Well, when you're looking at that $2,500 tax bill, here's the deal. That previous property owner or the present property owner may have what's on there, what's called a CHAP tax credit. This is a tax credit that Baltimore City gives out to folks that are or have rehabbed home and put a lot of money into it and still kept a lot of the home, some of the original parts. But it is a tax credit that goes away after 10 years after the renovations are or have been completed. So if that renovation was completed 9 years ago, guess what? On year number 10, your tax incentive is gone and you're gonna see your property tax bill double, triple, or even more. So really, really look at that, okay? It's one thing to compare comps, like, hey, this house sold for 400, this one sold for 405, and they're the same. But what could be a lot different are the tax bills between the two properties, and it can make hundreds of dollars difference in your monthly payment. So my friends, look, those are the pros and cons of living in Baltimore, Maryland for 2024. If a move to Maryland is in your future, whether it's Baltimore or somewhere else in the great state of Maryland, my team and I would love to help you out in your housing search, but we just need one thing for you. We need you to reach out to us. So please give us a call, shoot us a text message, send us an email, or better yet, schedule your own one-on-one Zoom appointment. The link's down in the description below. That way we can hop online, get to know each other, find out what your needs are, and ultimately find you the perfect place to live in Baltimore. Now, before you go, I want you to check out this next video. This is gonna break down a lot of the negative things because look, I'd rather you be over-prepared and know the negative stuff before moving here to Baltimore. So check this video out right now. Don't forget to check out that video on the Key Bridge that I mentioned earlier as well. So my friends, that is all we've got today. Stay safe. And remember, my team and I have your back from Baltimore down the bay, all the way to the beaches in Ocean City. We have you covered. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.